When we talk about the life of Jesus and the origins of Christianity, most people immediately think of the four canonical Gospels: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. These are the ones we find in the Bible, officially recognized by the Church. Yet, alongside them, there exists a parallel and often forgotten world, the so-called Apocryphal Gospels. The word apocryphal does not simply mean false, as many might assume. In its Greek origin, it actually means hidden or secret. These writings were excluded from the official canon, but that does not mean they are worthless. On the contrary, they are a fascinating window into how the earliest Christian communities, and beyond, perceived the figure of Jesus, the apostles, and Mary. The Apocryphal Gospels are not few. Dozens of texts exist, each with its own style and purpose. Some fill in the gaps left by the canonical Gospels. For example, the Proto-Evangelium of James tells us about the childhood of Mary and the miraculous birth of Jesus, with details absent from the canonical accounts. Others, like the Infancy Gospel of Thomas, describe curious and almost legendary episodes of Jesus' youth, a child who, though divine, had to learn how to handle his power and authority. Still others focus on secret teachings. The Gospel of Thomas, discovered at Nag Hammadi in Egypt in 1945, contains 114 sayings attributed to Jesus. We find no miracles or narratives, only enigmatic and profound words that seem to invite the reader to inner knowledge. One famous saying declares, "The kingdom is within you and outside of you," a line that has fascinated generations of scholars and continues to spark debates about Christ's true message. The big question is, if these texts speak of Jesus, why aren't they in the Bible? The answer lies in the history of the early centuries of Christianity. The first communities were highly diverse. Some emphasized Christ's divinity, others his humanity. Some groups were influenced by Jewish thought, others by Greek or Egyptian philosophy. Each community wrote texts reflecting its own vision. As the Church began to consolidate, especially between the 2nd and 4th centuries, it felt the need to define a canon, an official collection of texts recognized as authentic. Other writings were discarded, not always because they were false, but because they were considered dangerous, too imaginative, or incompatible with the doctrine that was being established. A striking example is the Gospel of Peter, which describes the resurrection of Jesus in spectacular terms. A giant Christ emerging from the tomb, followed by a talking cross. A fascinating narrative, but far too symbolic and visionary to be accepted as official history. For centuries, many of these texts were lost, surviving only in quotations from early Christian authors who criticized them. Then, in the 20th century, something extraordinary happened. In 1945, a library of Gnostic manuscripts was discovered at Nag Hammadi, likely hidden to protect them from persecution. Among these texts were the Gospel of Thomas, the Gospel of Philip, and the Apocryphon of John. These discoveries radically changed our understanding of Christian origins, revealing how vast and diverse the early landscape truly was. There was not one Christianity, but many interpretations, some leaning toward mysticism, others toward Greek philosophy, others still toward esoteric traditions. Among the most popular apocryphal stories are episodes that even inspired art and popular traditions. The Proto-Evangelium of James, for instance, tells of Mary's birth and her consecration to the temple, shedding light on her life before the Annunciation. In the Infancy Gospel of Thomas, we see a young Jesus shaping clay birds and then bringing them to life with a breath. A story that portrays a magical yet human side of him. A child discovering the divine power he carried within. The voice of the Church. The Church Fathers, such as Irenaeus of Lyon or Tertullian, often attacked these writings, labeling them as misleading or dangerous. Over time, they were branded as apocryphal and set aside. Yet, not all their content disappeared. Some legends born in these texts filtered into popular tradition. Many nativity scenes in medieval art or Renaissance paintings, for example, actually draw from apocryphal stories rather than the canonical Gospels. Today, scholars no longer see them merely as false texts. Instead, they are considered valuable testimonies that reveal the questions, fears, and hopes of the earliest Christian communities. Some are closer to legend, others to symbolism, and still others to philosophy. Their exclusion does not mean they lack value. It only means that, at a certain historical moment, a precise line was drawn to define orthodoxy. But for those who want to truly understand the complexity of Christianity's origins, the Apocryphal Gospels are like missing pieces of a vast puzzle. Speaking of the Apocryphal Gospels does not mean questioning faith. It means uncovering a heritage of stories and ideas that reveal how vibrant, creative, and diverse early spirituality really was. Whether in extraordinary miracles or enigmatic sayings, these texts continue to intrigue, fascinate, and invite us to reflect on the mystery of Jesus and the evolution of Christianity. If you know more or have theories, let us know in the comments. We read them all. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and don't forget to subscribe for more mysteries like this one.